Welcome to CinePro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. The movie begins with a child being sold for 6 bullets. This was the sentence that appeared in the beginning of the movie. After that, we find ourselves in a nightclub where we see Samson, whom everyone calls Sam. Sam was at the club to clear his mind and forget about the world. He goes to meet the boss for a special deal. When the guards search him and use a metal detector, they find something on him. He tries to take it out, but they stop him, suspecting it might be a weapon or something. However, it turns out he was holding money. They understand he came for personal pleasure and let him in to meet the boss. There was a secret word between Sam and the boss, whom he was meeting for the first time, to confirm that Sam was the person they were expecting. The boss realizes it's Sam's first time in such a place and asks if he brought the money. Sam pulls out the money from his pocket and asks to see the boy, as part of a secret trade catering to those with deviant tendencies. Sam insists on seeing the boy to confirm he's the one from the picture, especially since he's paying a large sum for just 1 hour. The boss appreciates his words and orders his men to bring the child. When the boy appears, the boss receives a call. The boss finds out through the call that Sam has connections worldwide and learned from his contacts that the boy's mother has a wealthy relative who hired a professional to retrieve the child. With a signal, the boss orders his men to take the boy away. This angers Sam greatly, not just because of the boss's behavior, but because of the damage to his reputation and work. Sam tells the boss he only wants the boy and is willing to pay extra to buy him outright. The boss likes the offer but hesitates because Sam has seen their faces. However, Sam has the same concern. A fight breaks out, with Sam taking down everyone in the room. He waits by the door for anyone who might enter. When someone does, drawn by the commotion, Sam kills him and goes to search for the boy. When he finds him, the boy is scared of him, but Sam reassures him, saying his mother sent him and that he'll take him home. Sam sneaks the boy out of the room and the entire building. He overhears the guards receiving a message not to let anyone leave. However, Sam had prepared everything in advance. He gets on a motorcycle and escapes. When the gang tries to chase him, all the cars in the area explode. Sam successfully escapes with the boy. The next day, after returning the boy, Sam receives a call telling him there's a car waiting for him outside his house. The call ends abruptly. He finds the car as a police vehicle, which takes him to the site he had bombed the previous day. A detective at the scene is furious with Sam for using the information he provided to cause such destruction. Sam tries to explain that his job was to safely rescue the child, but the detective opens body bags and shows him the corpses of young girls who died in the fire caused by the bombs. The detective tells Sam that the children were hidden in locked rooms within the building and died from suffocation. All the victims were under 15 years old. The detective acknowledges Sam's good intentions, but reminds him that he's not a cop. He's a former soldier. This isn't Afghanistan or Africa, where collateral damage is acceptable. Here, such damage is unacceptable. The detective advises Sam to leave police work to the professionals. 6 months later, a famous athlete named Andrew arrives at a Georgian airport with his wife Monica and their 14-year-old daughter Becky. They're in Georgia for an important match Andrew has to play, though they don't like the place much. They notice the car waiting for Andrew, and Becky takes several photos. Unbeknownst to them, a woman named Amelia is also taking photos of Becky. The family eventually gets into the car and heads to their hotel. Meanwhile, Sam is working at his butcher shop, which he runs himself. He's haunted by the ghosts of the girls who died 6 months earlier. To cope, he keeps a weapon nearby and drinks heavily. Back at the hotel, Andrew is watching a match of his upcoming opponent, who appears very aggressive. Becky worries that her dad might get hurt, but Andrew reassures her that he's not as weak as she thinks. He shows her how he identified the opponent's weakness and plans to defeat him within 2 rounds. Monica, exhausted, falls asleep while Andrew takes a shower. Becky tells her mother she's going to get some ice and leaves. When Andrew finishes his shower, he finds a note from Becky saying she went to get ice. Monica wakes up and asks about Becky, and they both realize they had warned her not to go anywhere alone. Andrew goes out to look for Becky. He checks the ice machine but doesn't find her there. He goes to the reception desk and asks a woman if she's seen his daughter. The woman is busy dealing with an elderly woman who was just taken away by ambulance. Andrew speaks to the manager, who says he hasn't seen Becky. Then Andrew spots someone who looks like Becky leaving the hotel with a strange woman. He follows them, only to realize it's someone else. At that moment, he decides to open the trunk of one of the cars, but finds it empty, and the car owner was about to hit him. However, when Andrew shows him a picture of his daughter, the man understands why he was doing it and tells him that he hasn't seen her. Of course, the police arrive, as it has now become an official kidnapping case. They start roaming the streets holding the girl's picture and asking about her, but no one has seen her. They also check the hotel cameras, but nothing shows up. The incident makes it to the news, where all the details of the case are discussed. Sam sees Andrew holding a press conference, announcing a $10,000 reward for anyone who can tell them where Becky is. That same night, Sam finds Andrew and his wife approaching him. They tell him that someone from the American embassy directed them to look for Samson in that area. However, he tells them that Samson is dead. Monica notices a scar on the back of Andrew's head and realizes he was in the military. She learns he's Sam, the man they need to find their daughter. They beg him for help, but he refuses, saying he can't help them. Andrew offers him money, showing him all the cash he has and promising more if Sam agrees to help. Sam still refuses and advises them to go to the police. Andrew realizes it's hopeless. When Sam closes his shop, someone comes to shield him from the rain, and it turns out to be the same person who works at the embassy, who, by the way, is also his son, Selwyn. His son tries to convince him that this family needs his help since the police and locals know nothing and the criminals in the country are protected. Yet Sam still refuses to help. Meanwhile, Andrew starts shutting down the entire city piece by piece, asking about his daughter. He eventually ends up at a brothel where he shows his daughter's picture to the workers. The bartender tells him he hasn't seen her. At that moment, two men start insulting his daughter inappropriately, and the comment that makes him boil with anger is when they blame him for letting his daughter come to such a place, calling him a terrible father. Andrew grabs them and starts beating them up. Security intervenes to kick him out, but because he's a trained mixed martial artist, he fights them off and gives them a hard time. However, due to the overwhelming number of guards, they eventually manage to overpower him and beat him up. Suddenly, the lights go out, and we see Sam wearing night vision goggles. He takes out the guards, helps Andrew up, and tells him he will look for his daughter. Sam takes Andrew to his butcher shop. Andrew asks how he found him, and Sam reveals that finding people is his profession. Andrew also asks what changed his mind, and Sam replies that it's the right thing to do. Later, Andrew and his wife are sitting with the detective who had appeared with Sam. The detective informs them that their daughter left the hotel in an ambulance that took an old woman. This is suspicious because upon investigating the old woman's documents, they found nothing, suggesting the kidnappers might have altered her daughter's hair color to avoid detection. Monica becomes extremely upset and sarcastically asks if they've just figured this out after 2 days. She begins quoting statistics, explaining how her daughter could now be on the other side of the world. Since the kidnapper hasn't demanded a ransom, it's clear they intend to sell her. She also mentions that the chances of finding a kidnapped person drop by 30% after 24 hours. The detective decides to take immediate action and reveals that he knows they hired a private investigator, Sam. He informs them about Sam's actions 6 months ago, emphasizing the collateral damage he caused. However, Monica isn't concerned about any of this. As long as he brings her daughter back, he can do whatever he wants. The detective warns them that in Sam's last mission, 4 girls were killed, 2 the same age as Becky and 2 younger. He explains that they don't operate at Sam's speed, but their priority is to bring Becky back safe and sound. That same night, Sam approaches one of the guards of a large house, delivering an order and asking for a signature. When the guard signs, the pen injects him with a sedative, causing him to pass out. Sam drags him away. Meanwhile, the guard monitoring the cameras notices something unusual and alerts the other guards to watch for anything out of the ordinary. The guards spot a car approaching and start shooting at it until it stops, only to find it empty. They realize their mistake, having left the back of the house unguarded. At that moment, one of the guards escorts the boss to the basement, as security has been tightened, making it impossible for anyone to reach the basement. The guards enter the house, but when they open a door, they find it rigged with wires connected to cameras and explosives. They jump back to avoid the blast. Meanwhile, before the boss can reach the basement, Sam throws a gas bomb, knocking him and his men unconscious. When the boss regains consciousness, he finds himself tied up with a wound inflicted by Sam that will leave a permanent scar. This man is the leader of the Russian gang in the area. Although he doesn't know Sam, he understands why Sam is there, to find the American girl. The boss claims he knows nothing about her because it would harm his business. Sam tells him that the only reason he's still alive is that Sam has a task for him. He has 24 hours to find the girl and return her to her family. If he fails, Sam will come back to kill him. The boss agrees to cooperate and releases one of his captives, allowing him to leave. Shortly after, we see a man named Vlad inspecting a new shipment. During this, he receives a call from the leader of the Russian gang, whose men Sam had previously taken out. The leader complains about Vlad's cousin causing too many problems with his operations and insists that it must stop. Vlad argues that the major deal they're working on involves millions, but the Russian leader doesn't care and wants the operation shut down. At this point, we notice that Sam has planted a listening device in the room to eavesdrop on the conversation. After the call ends, Sam contacts his son, asking him to track a phone number and sends it to him. The next day, he finds himself inside one of the houses with his uncle and his wife, Amelia. Of course, he tells them about the deal and thinks it's over, but Amelia wasn't happy with the idea and wanted to proceed with the deal, and he pulls out the gun and finishes her and then finishes his cousin and enters the bathroom where Becky was tied up. After a few hours, Ben goes to one of the houses where the police are. This is the house where the phone that tracked him was, and it was also the same house where Becky was. But Sam is surprised when he finds the police, and the investigator explains that he got on his stress and that's why the gang killed Becky in a horrible way. He enters the bathroom and Becky was in the bathtub and there is no part of her body that could be identified at all. He notices the pictures in her left hand and he can't stand the sight, and the investigator increases the guilt and tells him that this is because of you. Sam had one question, which is that he doesn't know how to recognize a face, so the investigator tells him that DNA analysis is what will determine the truth. In the hospital, her mother asks why they killed her. The investigator tells her that the kidnapper felt pressured because someone put too much pressure on him. At that moment, the doctor comes in and tells them that the DNA matches. Becky collapses and goes to Nissan and slaps him. She takes some of her time and walks. His son tries to convince him that it wasn't his fault. When they return to the poison shop, he tells him that you are to blame for getting him involved in the matter, especially since he knows that it is not the same as before. Their daughter is dead. His son tries to make him understand that it wasn't his fault. Then he throws him out of the shop. His son comes back again to take the gun. At the same time, Andrew and his wife decide to return to America again, and the world is closed in their faces. Sam goes in to get drunk to forget what happened and finds the head of the Russians in front of him with his men. Of course, he could have finished them off, but he does nothing. They catch him and they flog him with sound and chains, and he does nothing. But in the end, he gets enough beating and decides that he must finish them off. He starts hitting them one by one until the rest pull out their guns. He hides, and his son appears with the gun he has and helps him finish off everyone. In the end, they finish off the biggest boss as well. Here, Sam notices something and goes straight to Beck's picture. He notices that her picture is on her right hand, so he has his son drive and run to the airport. He stops Monica and her husband and tells them that her daughter is alive. This is because the body was wearing a bracelet on her left hand, and their daughter always wears a bracelet on her right hand. They believe him and go back with him so that they can start seeing this matter from the beginning. Well, there is still an important question. Why would he kill someone who looks like Becky? Sam's son tells them that the matter is simple, and this is because American girls are very expensive, but the acid was used. The nuclear is identical, and here Sammy thinks of Andrew with the word he said, and that everything had a certain price in this country, and suddenly we find the doctor attached, and this is because it is. Definitely like in the DNA test, and the doctor does not lie, and without any torture, he tells them that a man named Stilo is the one who bribed him to fake the test. So Sam calls his son immediately and says to him, I want to know what Stilo wants from kidnapping an American girl on the same day. Stilo was standing with Vlad and he receives a call from the doctor, and she tells him what happened. Stilo hangs up and tells him what happened and asks him if he knows the butcher. Vlad tells him that he took care of everything, but Stilo tells him that nothing was taken care of and that his plan is falling apart one by one, and he is strong, that his name must be kept away from all this turmoil. This is more important to him than the girl, the deal, and everything else. He tries to convince them that he can turn him off to something other than the girl, but Vlad was determined and was confident that his plan would succeed. As for Sam, he takes Monica and her husband to a safe house and tells them to stay in this house and not do anything. They reject this idea, but Sam tries to make them understand that he works better alone and he won't be able to protect the three of them if they come with him. He makes them understand that Stello's men can track anything, so they shouldn't make any phone calls, and anyone who comes to this house other than him and his son, he will finish them off immediately. He gives them a weapon and asks Andrew if he used a gun before, but he tells him no, but luckily his wife used them before. As for Becky, she was still alive and was in a place they don't know. Suddenly she hears a commotion outside and finds girls like her who were kidnapped while getting out of a car. And then she notices that the door of the cell she is in is open, so she sneaks around and starts circling the doors. Maybe she can escape, but in the end she finds herself in the room where the belongings of the kidnapped girls are kept. So she calls her mother immediately and asks her father to bring her laptop, and he makes her use the Find My Phone feature, and they actually know where she is. And then someone enters the room to return her to prison again, and she quickly hangs up the phone and hides, and her father gets scared and tries to call, tells him not to ring because if the phone rings it will make a sound and they will find her. But the man finds her and returns her to the cell, and of course, Flat notices the call that was made and decides to trace the number and find out where the girl's family is, while her family were intending to go to their daughter immediately, and he said that they would call Sam. And on the way, Sam kept going to the investigator and trying to find out anything from him that would help him in what he was doing, and the policeman was surprised that he would implicate them, and that he has a family. But Sam told him that he is the only honest policeman, and then he goes with his son to the cemetery to get the weapons he hid there, and his son told him during work that But this big guy loves to buy a lot of weapons, and he has a hobby, which is collecting blonde girls and virgins, and pays very large sums for them. And for this reason, Vlad wants Becky to sweeten his deal in which he will sell weapons. At that time, he gets a call from Mahdi, who was trying to tell him Becky's address, but the network was cut off, and he understands where Becky exactly is, but he does not know how to understand that they are going. On their way, they and his wife arrive at the place early in the morning. Of course, there was a guard at the gate, so Monica takes the car alone and approaches the man, pretending to be lost and asking for directions. When he refuses, she decides to bribe him with money, and he agrees. As he gets closer to her, Andrew appears, takes him out, grabs his weapon, and they enter the place. However, the entire place was under surveillance cameras, and they were spotted entering. Meanwhile, Monica and her husband notice someone resembling Becky and another woman holding her tightly. They follow them until they reach an open yard and realize they've fallen into a trap. 3 men appear and aim machine guns at them, ready to kill them. But at that moment, Sam shows up, takes out the 3 men, and saves them. Vlad orders his men to send everyone to finish them off. The 3 of them leave the area where they thought they saw Becky, only to discover that it was someone who looked like her. When they see a girl tied up in front of them, she asks them to untie her, knowing they came for the new girl. She promises to take them to her if they release her. When Vlad finds out they took another girl, the one who was tied up, he gets very upset because she's very important to him, and he paid a lot of money for her. They move through the tunnels to reach Becky, encountering many people along the way, but Sam throws a gas grenade, forcing them to flee. Sam walks through the gas, shooting and taking them out one by one. At that moment, Vlad decides to regroup all his men in one location. Meanwhile, Monica notices cameras everywhere. They spot cars full of people coming their way. Andrew uses an RPG, hands 2 grenades to Monica and her husband, and instructs them to throw them when he signals. He then uses the RPG to destroy one car, and the 2 grenades destroy another. The gang members from the last car get out, and Andrew manages to take out some of them. However, orders come for the gang to retreat and regroup. Andrew's phone rings, and it's someone telling him they want to trade his daughter for the other girl they captured. Andrew doesn't want to make such a decision and refuses, but when his wife finds out, she considers agreeing to the trade. The girl tells them it's not her fault and reveals that her sister was the girl they killed to fake Becky's death. Later, the phone rings again, and Sam tells Andrew to put it on speaker. They hear Becky screaming, and Vlad informs them that it's one of her fingers. He insists they accept the deal and tells them there's a camera in the place. Sam must stand in front of it until the deal is finalized. Sam devises a plan to come out victorious and asks Tanya if she trusts him. She says yes. Vlad's phone rings, and Andrew tells him to send his daughter. Vlad sends her with one of his men. Andrew takes Tanya and goes with his wife to get their daughter. Sam goes and stands in front of the camera as instructed, and the exchange is completed. Vlad orders snipers to take out Andrew and his wife, but no bullets are fired because Sam had already taken them out. Vlad is shocked, but finds Sam talking to him and asking, "You're probably wondering how I'm in 2 places at once." Sam explains that he placed a device on the camera to loop the footage, tricking him. Vlad's men chase after them, but Andrew takes out some of them. At that moment, the police finally arrive. Tanya confronts Vlad, pulls out the gun Sam gave her, and takes him out. Sam reveals that it was his son who brought the police, having gone to the detective and convinced him. Andrew finally decides to return to America with his entire family after these events, and thanks Sam greatly for what he did. Of course, there was one last mission: to kill Stilo. Sam disguises himself as a monk to get Stilo's